Today we're going to demonstrate how to make sugar cookies. These sugar cookies are used for Javaccino and they're used for many of our catering events. We get lots of specialty orders of our sugar cookies wanting certain designs and certain colors. We use stars with blue and gold chocolate for a lot of the Leiden events. We make thousands of these cookies over the course of the school year. You will not need a recipe for this by the end of the school year. You will be very tired of sugar cookies. The sugar cookie recipe is not hard. It's a little bit tedious with the way the eggs have to be added, but other than that, it's a pretty straightforward recipe. This recipe does not rise a great deal, so once you cut the cookies out with a cookie cutter, they do pretty good holding their shape. All right, to get started, we need 4 sticks of butter. That is an entire pound of butter. Now granted, at Javaccino we make bigger batches. This is a single batch. So 4 sticks of butter, and then 2 cups plus 2 tablespoons of sugar. And you beat this on an electric mixer until it's light and fluffy. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Okay, and we'll raise that up. There we go. Now I will start this on low, and then once some of that sugar is incorporated into the butter and it will not fly out of the bowl, I will start turning it up. And that sugar's getting mixed in very nicely, so I'm going to go ahead and, whoa, I guess I'm not. Some pieces flew out. So I'll turn it down just a little bit. It wasn't ready yet. So we're going to give this just a minute to get light and fluffy, and then we will continue with the recipe. Butter and our sugar has been creamed and is light and fluffy, so now we're going to add the vanilla. And go ahead and let that get mixed in. And then it's time to start adding the eggs. Now, the only bad thing about this recipe is that the eggs have to be added one at a time, and that's to make sure that everything is properly mixed. This recipe needs, excuse me, 10 eggs, so that takes a while. So we need 4 whole eggs, so there's 3, and then I'll go ahead and crack the 4th one. You want to crack them in separate bowls since they have to be added individually, and also to make sure that there's no shell in there. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding these. Now again, you don't have to wait a ton of time in between each egg. You just want it to start getting mixed in. And here comes number 4. Now I'm going to scrape this down. As you see, the batter is getting very, very thin because there is so much liquid in it. That will all change when we get the flour in there. I'm going to go ahead and scrape this off. Now, the next 6 eggs, all you're adding is the egg yolk. The yolk is the yellow part of the egg. So I've already separated 5 of the eggs just to make things go smoothly, and I'll throw 1 in there now. Again, to separate the eggs, you can sit and do it by the shell, but again, you risk cutting the edge of the egg yolk. So I will use an egg separator. And now with the egg yolk has all the fat, and almost all the protein is in the egg white. However, almost all the vitamins are also in the egg yolk because that's where the fat is. So your fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K are in the egg yolk. In an egg, this is about 70 calories, and this is about 15 because of all the fat. But the egg yolk has lecithin in it, which is an emulsifier, and that helps hold everything together. That's going to help make the cookies nice and rich. 2 more. Make sure that's mixed up real well. I'll scrape that down one more time. All right. Now, the next step is to measure our flour. We need 7 cups of flour. I've already measured 6 just to keep things moving along. Flour is one of those ingredients. You scoop it. You can tap the cup a little bit with your straight edge and level. Remember, baking is a science, so you don't guess on how much a cup is. It needs to be precise. Okay, so there's our 7 cups. Then we need 1 tablespoon of baking powder and a ½ teaspoon of salt, and I've gone ahead and put both of those in here. The baking powder is our leavening agent, so that will help the cookies fluff up just a little bit. And then the salt is a flavor enhancer, and that will bring out the vanilla flavor in the cookies, as well as break the sweetness just a little bit. So I'm using a wire whip here to get out any lumps that are in the flour and to evenly incorporate that baking powder and salt throughout the flour. And then the next step is to add this to your butter mixture. Now you'll want to do this in steps because, again, if we pour all of this in there, it's going to just blow up in our face. So I'm just going to use the measuring cup more as a scoop. It's not meant for measuring at this point. But I'm going to put a little bit in there, and I'm going to turn it on low. Once that flour has been moistened, it isn't going to fly up in my face. Okay, I can turn it up a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to add some more flour. And try not to get the cup stuck in there. Okay, so we will be back as soon as all the flour, all of our flour has been incorporated into this. I'm going to make sure that it's all mixed up. Now, this is a very thick dough, so you do not want to run your mixer crazy because it'll burn out the motor. You don't have to worry about that on the big industrial mixers, but we do need to be cognizant of that with the Mix Masters. All right. So what we're going to do here is we need to get the dough off of the paddle. Okay. Again, this dough is relatively thick. All right. So all of that liquid was soaked up by the flour. So what's going to happen with this cookie dough is we are going to scrape it into a large piece of plastic wrap and wrap it up real nice and put it into the refrigerator so it can get nice and cold. And that will make rolling it out much easier than trying to roll it out warm, because as you can see, it's sticky. It sticks to everything, but it will not do that when it's cold. And we don't want to add a whole lot more flour into it when we're rolling it out, because that will make our cookies tough. Okay. I've got all my dough in here. Okay. I'm going to get a large piece of plastic wrap and lay that on my counter. And scoop all of the cookie dough in there. And this may have to come out in pieces. Again, this cookie dough is very thick. And you would think that this would make a ton of cookies, but a single batch does not make all that many because you're cutting them out with these large cookie cutters. And this dough is supposed to be rolled. The recipe says to roll it a ½ inch thick, but we have found that rolling it a ¼ inch thick works very, very well. We get twice as many cookies out of the batch. And since we are using such large cookie cutters for our Javaccino and our catering event cookies, it actually does work out much better because the cookies do still turn out very, very large. All right, we have the dough in there. Typically for a Javaccino, we'll make probably about 6 batches worth of cookies. So 6 times this amount of dough. We've had catering events that have ordered 500 cookies. So we definitely know our way around sugar cookies. All right? So you roll this up. Now, make sure it's nice and airtight, otherwise it will dry out. Fold up the ends. And then this will go in the fridge, well, usually overnight, so that it's nice and cold tomorrow.